Hi, everybody. Welcome to Developing a Leadership Mindset. I am Andrea Hunt. I'll be your host for today, welcoming Eva Havaris to join us. Before we start, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction on my role. We just joined Scottish United. I am one of the coaches of the U17 girls team. It's a pleasure and a privilege to work with them every day. This topic of leadership is really important. It's something we've worked on from the time we started with them in U8, setting goals, having a mindset of growth, learning from opportunities, holding each other accountable on the pitch. How do we talk to each other in constructive ways? Just really brilliant things that the beautiful game brings forward and helps us with. So I'm really excited to be here for this topic. Before I hand it over to Eva, we'll do an introduction to let you know about what she does. Eva's was born and raised in London, Ontario. Her introduction to sport and leadership was through soccer. Growing up, Eva was a multi-sport athlete who went on to play Division I soccer in the States for 2 years before returning to her hometown and joining the University of Western Ontario's Mustangs. At Western, Eva completed her undergraduate degree in sociology and a master's degree in sports management, where she published a 10-year review of Sport Canada's sport funding and accountability framework. Eva went on to coach at Western University, Fanshawe College, University of Toronto, while serving as the Rugby Development Manager and Associate Director of Women's Rugby and Rugby Canada. Eva's done quite a bit already at this point, and by the age of 30, she was hired as the CEO of Taekwondo Canada and later went to serve as CEO of Equestrian Canada before returning to her first love, soccer. In 2018, Eva joined the leadership team at the Canadian Premier League and helped to build and launch the league from coast to coast. She is currently the Executive Vice President of York United FC and was recently announced as the new Executive Director of Alpine, Ontario. So once Eva completes her tenure with Alpine, she will have served in leadership roles in every capacity in the sport industry in Canada, including individual sport, team sport, summer and winter sport, Pan American sport, Olympic and Paralympic sport, and professional sports and leagues. Finally, Eva is the proud owner of Leadership Mindset by Design. Her business is dedicated to helping leaders and organizations discover or rediscover their greatness. Eva, welcome. We're so happy to have you and can't wait to hear this talk and have questions with you after.
Thank you so much, Andrea. It's so great to be here. Thanks. So I guess I'll dive in. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you to Jeff for making this happen, and the club as a whole, the team behind the scenes as a whole for making this happen. So when Jeff reached out to me to participate today, he essentially just wanted me to share about my journey of being an athlete sort of on the field and then moving in off the field into coaching and management. When he asked me the topic, I couldn't help but go for it and talk about sort of developing a leadership mindset. And Andrea, I think your intro there of what the club is doing at the youngest ages of teaching leadership and empowering leadership and all of the athletes is exactly sort of what we're going to dive into. So I couldn't jump into my own journey without giving everyone a sense of sort of what my mindset is, what my philosophy is around leadership mindset, how these two pieces come together into a way of thinking and a way of being, not only with yourself, but with others around you. So I'm going to start with that. So my notion of leadership, and of course, this is developed over many, many years. It's something that has really been cultivated, I would say, in the last couple of years as I've looked at all of my different experiences. But ultimately, the framework of it is this. It's that leadership is in each of us. So I start with that principle. First and foremost, I've seen it through my entire career, certainly in soccer, and in sport in general. One of the things that sport does just by its very nature is categorizes people and categorizes them as some being leaders and some not having leadership potential, some having this capability to, hold others accountable, whereas others don't. I just do not believe that at all. I've seen it over and over again. That every single person has this potential in each of us. So I think that'll give you a lens into sort of where I'll take this. Also, in my time as a CEO, I used to aspire, of course, to the top. I had been a CEO, as Andrea mentioned, But I certainly learned in those years that leadership is absolutely not a title. Those years taught me that even while having the title, ultimately the relationships with people, cultivating their own leadership, cultivating their own success, and having them realize their potential. That's what I learned that really leadership is about. So in terms of the way it's expressed, I've really, as I said, just given thought to this more and more in the last couple of years. And it's essentially leadership, it's expressed through communication. It occurs in an environment where people have an opportunity to influence or inspire another person. So if you take this notion of communication and leadership being that expression of communication and the expression of sort of your authenticity, you start to realize how many opportunities all of us have, even at the youngest ages, to lead. So this glass here, which is ready to be filled, is really just to symbolize all of the moments. If you think, all of you who are sort of tuned in today watching, if you think of all of those moments that you've had an opportunity to come in contact with another person, to communicate your view, your philosophy, your way of being, your way of doing, to influence or inspire another person, that creates so many opportunities for all of us at every stage in our life to lead, to develop that leadership mindset, and to grow that mindset. So a little bit more about mindset so that we can start to put these concepts together. So mindset, it's an established set of attitudes that's held by someone. So it's pretty straightforward, but just for context and to help you really sort of grasp maybe your own mindset and what you might be thinking as we go through this. It's a mentality, it's your outlook, it's an ethos or a way of doing and being, and it's your psyche. So then when we look at how mindsets are formed, I'm going to start right at the bottom there where it says experience, right? So all of those experiences that we all have over the course of a lifetime, mindsets start to form there. Out of those experiences, those generate thoughts, they generate ideas, they generate notions of what's going on around us. From those thoughts, we start to form beliefs. Belief in ourselves, beliefs about our environment, beliefs about others in our environment. And from there, those beliefs get solidified into attitudes, a way of viewing, a lens, a way of seeing the world around us, our biases as well. And from those attitudes, that leads us to our actions. So the actions that we take, walking the talk, the way that we communicate, express ourselves, the way we handle challenging and difficult situations, and then the cycle goes on and on and on. So the notion here, the real takeaway here is there is an endless amount of opportunity to form a mindset, to design that mindset, and also to redesign that mindset. It's all comes down to the environment that we create, the experiences that we have, and how we show up and how we behave and act in those opportunities. So then to bring this together into a leadership mindset, these experiences ultimately create an opportunity for us to design ourselves and also to redesign our mindset. So the redesign part of this, I think, is the most critical part in that it allows anyone at any moment, whether you're a coach, parent, you're a boss in the workplace, you're a student, you're an athlete, whatever it is, at any moment that you choose to shift, to change your perspective, to open your perspective and open yourself to new experiences and new ideas. Open yourself to new ways of being with others, communicating with others, influencing and inspiring others. That's that opportunity for you to literally show up, redesign yourself, and show up anew. And I think that is such a powerful and empowering concept. So before I dive into my journey, I wrote this piece of text a few months ago, actually. Hopefully I can read it here. I just got to move everybody. And I wanted to share this because I think, I was rereading it as I was preparing for this presentation, and I think it really just sort of captures this notion of leadership and mindset combined. So as a young girl, my mom used to bring me to watch my older brother play soccer. I can tell you all that I didn't remain on the sidelines for very long. My drive to compete and lead others landed me on the field of play and in leadership roles from a very young age. Sport was my artistry. I wasn't a good drawer. Sport was my sandbox. Sport gave me an arena to express my creativity and my individuality, to develop the ability to navigate relationships and communicate effectively, and to compete and perform under ever-evolving circumstances. Most importantly, sport gave me the opportunity to hone my leadership potential from an early age. So my journey, you can't know someone's journey without seeing some pictures of them at their earliest ages. So my leadership journey absolutely started when I was young. So I've got 3 photos here. And funny enough, these really suit my strengths, the strengths that I've checked in on in the last year that just come through loud and clear. That very first one there, so I'm on the right, my brother's on the left. We're out on a family vacation. It was, I think, the first and probably only family vacation we ever took. But it was actually to Kingston, and we decided to get dressed up like military, and there we are saluting. So one of my strengths, funny enough, is commander. So when I came across this picture, seeing myself at a young age and thinking of my journey in leadership and my experiences, again, just want to hit the point home that the essence of that strength was coming through at that moment. And I was probably about 9 years old, 10 years old there. Below that picture is a picture of me on the soccer field. So I grew up, as Andrea mentioned, in London, Ontario. I played soccer. It was my first sport, definitely my first love. At the time that I started playing soccer, there were no teams for girls at all. So the only option for me to play the sport at that time was to play with the boys. Also at that time in soccer in this country, or at least in Ontario, it was organized by ethnicities. So it was the Greek team, the Italian team, the Croatian team, you name it, the German team, but that's how sport was organized. And so you can imagine myself as a young girl wanting to play sport. My only option to play was with boys. And of course, you add the cultural and ethnic component to that experience. I can tell you that there was resistance at first for me to play, but very quickly, you know, stepping on the field and my teammates seeing me as an equal was some of the best experiences of my life. And on the right-hand side there, so I'd say I'm about 7 years old, 8. You can see there, for those of you that have joined that know me well, I still don't look good in frills, but this was my mom's way of trying to get me to continually wear dresses. And yeah, this kid, I mean, the person that I see here is the one in sort of my leadership strengths is that compassionate, kind and caring person. So this is the opposite of that sort of competitive spirit and strength that I have. It's that other side of me that I've really had to nurture as a leader in my later years of leadership. So I'd say the last sort of 5-6 years, just really allowing my that side of myself to show up in the workplace. So going through my journey, I'll start on the field of play. So there's 4 logos here, and the on the field of play is essentially just the soccer aspect of my leadership experience. The first logo there is South Secondary School in London, Ontario. My experience there, again, multiple sports, basketball, volleyball, track and field, you name it. But funny enough, my best sport that I played at South and that I played at that time was soccer, and I got cut from the soccer team in grade 9. I was told by the coach at that time that I was too good to be taken on the team, and I may have my teammates or potential teammates feel threatened, feel insecure, feel unnerved with my presence. So I'm in grade 9 at this point. I was 13 years old. You could probably imagine from a mindset point of view and from a leadership point of view, the impact that had on me, hearing that from an adult in my environment and really couldn't make sense of the explanation. Like, I found it incredibly difficult. It's something that, you know, of course, soccer, I had dedicated a lot of years or most of half of my years before that to that sport and to being great at it. So that really shook me, I'll be honest. But through those years, you know, after we got over that, new coach in grade 10 and you know, thrilled to have me on the team and thrilled to have me be a captain and really allowed me to step back into sort of my strengths. And from there, my experience, which I'm sharing this because I definitely want the coaches who are here today to think about sort of the words that you choose to use and share, and the feedback that you choose to convey to these young athletes, and how those words stick. So at the same time of being told that I didn't make the team, on the flip side, as those years went on, it was constant reinforcement in my environment, no matter where I went, what sport I played, which friends I had, the teachers I had. It was constant reinforcement of my leadership, that I was a leader, my strength, these kinds of words. And so it's easier for sure to believe that about yourself when that's the environment, when you are encouraged to be strong, and you're encouraged to lead, and you're encouraged to support and lead your teammates and hold them accountable. So I would honestly say, in those high school years, those formative years, it was very, very impactful of my beliefs. If we go back to sort of how mindsets are shaped, my beliefs about myself and about the role that I play with others. So the next two logos here is my time in the States. So it's Detroit Mercy and it's Chattanooga, Tennessee. So as Andrea mentioned, I went down to the States and played 2 years at Division I. For so many years, I had worked towards a scholarship, going to play down in the States. I thought I would stay in the States. I at the time, my coach at Detroit, even when he was trying to encourage me not to leave, had said, there's a professional women's league for soccer. It's coming. It's going to be about 5 years, but it's coming. So trust me, just stay. We'll make it happen. You absolutely will play there. And I just didn't believe him. I didn't believe that it was coming. I didn't believe that was going to be possible. And so I made a move and I left. I intentionally chose to change environments from Detroit to Tennessee, only because the external environment, so literally where I was, like the physical place of being in Detroit, was very limiting. The leadership aspects and everything in terms of on the field were there, but off the field, there was not much to do. We found ourselves as athletes, doing things we probably shouldn't have done, certainly as high performing athletes. And it just wasn't the experience that I was looking for. So then on I go to Tennessee, Chattanooga. Again, so completely different environment, beautiful part of the state, sunny, warm most of the time, which I love. But a program that was just building. So a relatively new program, young team. I knew that I was going into that kind of situation. I knew that, again, I was being asked to play a significant leadership role within that environment, and really sort of kind of put the program on the map, help to recruit the future of the program, et cetera. And I can tell you that experience at that time turned me off of soccer for 2 years, I think, 2.5 years. And again, a sport that I had loved my whole life. And I'm telling you, it's not because of playing time, and it wasn't because of relationships with the players. It came down to, again, sort of trying to shine that leadership light, trying to sort of be strong and lead in the way that I do, and being confronted about that style or that approach. Being confronted because my teammates really gravitated to me for direction, guidance, reassurance, quite frankly. I mean, we lost a lot of games as a team. We lost a lot of games. It was not easy. And so because of all of those sort of experiences and the things going on, it became a really difficult situation. Again, a really challenging situation to my leadership style. So all of that to say, I ended up coming back to London and started to look at options again in Canada. And funny enough, Western, which I had always adored, the Mustangs when I was younger, had everything that I was looking for, and it was right in my backyard. So we had a fantastic team. It's a fantastic school. But I think more importantly, we had a coaching staff that was all about allowing each of us individually to express ourselves, express our style, our approach, not just sort of the way we play, but the way we communicated with each other, the way we bonded with each other, and just really created an environment to allow us to take the lead and sort of own our journey. That now, looking back, so at the time, I remember us talking about, wishing that we had had sort of more of a directive, authoritative coach. But looking back, on that experience and that time, you know, and knowing a lot of my teammates now, it really contributed to a lot of us sort of really taking a leap into our careers and feeling really confident and positive in the steps that we took. So a takeaway for me through those years, and this was something that really was resonating with me at the time, but again, this is sort of my mindset: hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. This in particular for me, when I came back to London and Western to play, knowing that I was going to be, you know, one of the top players on the team for sure, so there was no doubt about that. But my mentality was not in it at all. I didn't train that summer. I basically needed to step away completely from the sport because of my experience in Tennessee, and choose something different, choose a different hobby, a different passion that I had had, and just really allow a different side of myself to grow and to explore. And so at the end of the day, you know, I knew I had not worked hard to be ready to own the leadership that was already being sort of placed on me before I had even got there. And certainly I remember in the years that I was at Western and where and when I had the most success was I had worked harder, and my teammates will share this, than anyone that was there, you know, rolling up my sleeves to work harder than anyone else around me. And hopefully, and I do believe that inspired my teammates as a whole, for all of us to be better. So then when we go to off the field of play, this is where I started coaching. So Western was my first opportunity to coach. I always knew I wanted to coach. My coach at the time when I was playing was still there. He completely embraced bringing me onto the staff and really allowing me to play a pretty big role with the team. And so I was just so excited to start to do that, and to do that for a school and a team and a program and organization that just embodied everything that I valued and believed in. So it was a wonderful experience, you know, and essentially the transition from going as a player on the field to off the field, it was pretty seamless, because again, that leadership in me had been nurtured for so many years that that transition for me to take that step was an easy one. And I think the point here is, you know, this sport and many sports are constantly looking for more female coaches, you know, and the ease at which you can find them and create them, it starts when they're players. It doesn't start the day that they stop playing and then all of a sudden you're scrambling to figure out, well, which ones have the potential to coach. You know, that again, if you think of leadership and the impact a coach can have and the impact that coaches have in different ways on all of us, it can start as early as you start to shape their mindset in that way. So from there, I was hired at Fanshawe College. I went on again to coach there, head coach at Fanshawe. I did that for a couple of years. And I think out of all of my soccer experiences, I actually think this was my favorite of all of them. We were absolutely underdogs. I decided to bring my former teammates from Western. So we had an all-female coaching staff. We were about 4 to 5 years older than the players on average. And we just created this environment where it was fun, it was real, and we made sure to see the potential in each person and do what we could as a coaching staff to bring that out and bring them together as a team. I think that experience, again, in terms of shaping mindsets, I can tell you those players, like we won a provincial championship the first time in 10 years. We had shocked everybody. We shocked ourselves. But all of that was born out of building a mindset in each of them that they had the potential, that they were there to lead each other. You know, there wasn't one individual that had to carry the team. It was across the entire team that we instilled that leadership and empowered them to just go for it and sort of reach their potential. And they did. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience to be part of. From there, I went on to U of T. I coached a couple years at U of T, one as an assistant coach, a few years as a head coach. The interesting experience about coaching for me anyway at U of T was it was a really different culture from what I had been used to. So of course, from Western to U of T, just in terms of the positioning of athletics in the university, and I know that's changed now, but I'm talking about the days I was there. I mean, there were many, many programs. We were all sort of fighting for dollars, fighting for our position, you know, trying to be validated. And so the lens for me in that was, sort of stepping back again, recognizing the environment that you're in at that time and the match of that environment to your strengths and to your philosophies and how well that fits or doesn't fit, and these were some of the learnings that I had through those coaching years. So in terms of summing up my takeaways and sort of where my mindset was at then, and again, a building block from the time in my years as an athlete was this captures it perfectly. Behind every fearless player is a fearless coach who refused to let them be anything but the best they can be. This was everything about how I approached coaching. There were things that I was able to see in the players that I had, even at U of T, that of course they didn't see in themselves. And everything of our coaching was about helping them to find that and to be their best. And as a result of that, the results started to come. But the results came because we took that approach. It wasn't the other way around where we prioritized the results. I mean, all of us on that coaching staff had come from very successful U Sports programs, Western, Queens, we were used to winning. But that winning came, especially at U of T, it came out of finding that greatness in each of the players that we had, making sure we put them in roles and in places on the field for them to succeed and be in their truest gifts. So then from there, we go to the boardroom. So I've captured it here, 4 logos: rugby, taekwondo, equestrian, and the CPL. So I think I'll share here. I mean, it took me, getting the courage to step away from coaching because I just knew I was not committing what I could commit or what I should commit to the athletes. When we as coaches demand that these athletes are constantly getting better, doing better, training more, et cetera, I could not be okay with the fact that I wasn't giving at this time when I started, especially with Taekwondo. I just couldn't give 100% of myself to coaching anymore. And so I made the decision, that helped me anyway, make the decision to pursue an executive career in sport. So it had started and it was percolating with rugby on the high performance side, but it really cemented when I went to Taekwondo Canada as the CEO. That was when I chose that was going to be my career path, and that was going to be how I stayed connected to sport. So I was at Taekwondo for 4 years. From there, went right into equestrian. I think I gave myself the weekend off. I'll never do that again. So I gave myself 2 days off. And then, of course, into the CPL. And I'll kind of group these 3 experiences in particular together. Well, actually, all of them. This was the first time for me in sport that I ever felt that my gender played a role in me realizing my potential, in me stepping into a room to lead, and influencing and persuading not only a community, but other leaders, volunteers, staff members, whoever it may be, to go in a new direction, to create change, to create a better environment for the athletes. This was the first time. And so my experience as an athlete and coach in sport, I can say has not been completely mirrored as an executive. And to me, this is fascinating. I mean, I grew up playing with boys. I've been always very comfortable, but never, ever did I imagine that was the experience of sport. Me choosing to work in sport was because of everything that sport had given me for so many years as an athlete. The friendships, the relationships, the confidence, the authenticity of who I am, understanding who I am, like, you name it. My experiences all over the world, like, that's what it gave me. So that was the choice to work in sport. Through these years at the national sport organization level and now even on the professional side with soccer, it's been incredible to see. And again, of course, I'm sure you're hearing or thinking about sort of where my mindset is at today with leadership and these experiences. But every single experience, the differences, the cultural differences between Taekwondo, equestrian, and soccer, they're incredibly massive. These sports, they have similarities, sport is sport, but the cultural elements and the way these sports compete create completely different environments in each place. And so my growth essentially in these years has come from cultural differences, the types of people that I've met in these sports, the differences even within those people, the similarities with those people, the challenges that these organizations were facing over those years and even into today, have shaped me incredibly, and also have made me realize what is most important to me as a leader, and what is the most important thing that I can give back on a day-to-day basis to the next generation of leaders. But I'll say also, from leaving coaching to stepping into to leadership in this capacity or management, as I said, it was a lot to work up to leave coaching. About 2 weeks after, I felt relieved, but I love coaching, but I felt relieved just because I had more time also for myself and my personal life, and to grow that side of myself also. But the transition, for those of you that are out there thinking about, what it would be like to go from coaching to administration to management, the gifts that sport bring us as athletes and coaches is communication, teamwork, relationship building, strategic thinking, navigating challenges. All of those skills are incredibly transferable. And so if you are thinking about it, it's easier than what you think. So if you're feeling afraid or feeling you don't have the skills or the gifts, I'm here to tell you that you do. So I've got 3 sort of takeaways from this part of my leadership journey. The first one here, and again, these are just my opinions, so happy to have questions that challenge or insights or ideas that everyone has that's listening. The true test of leadership, it's the ability to create growth out of crisis. I've been in organizations that have been in crisis, and the greatest challenge that I've had as a leader is to help those individuals within those environments to still see the light at the end of the tunnel and to see the possibility for growth, both as a community and as individuals, to stay focused on, a better future. And that tested me tremendously. Another key learning is that it's about the art, not the war. I'll tell you, in the earlier days of my leadership journey, and even there's moments now where it crosses my mind, but I'm much more polished now, that the art, the strategic way to assert yourself, the way to lead, leading from behind, leading in front, leading to get collectively at the side, it really is an art. And certainly, I've definitely had not necessarily just greater success, but I will also share that my relationships with the people around me and in the environment are better by pursuing the art. And a third takeaway, in terms of sort of my journey and my mindset and how it's been shaped, is this one here. I love this quote. I think it's so powerful, and man, has this been true for my own career as well. When a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So I think that the toughest moment that we have as leaders, and that, again, leadership, whether it's an athlete, a coach, official, whatever capacity you are leading in, is to know when to walk away, to know when the environment is not a good fit for your strengths, it's not a good fit for your values, it's not aligned. It's just knowing when to step out of the resistance and step into a place of flow, an environment that just really, really suits you, really is an environment that you can grow and you can excel and you can bring others forward with you. So it's a tough one to digest and to go through, certainly, but very valuable if you can get yourself there. But just remembering that perspective, that it's incredible what happens if you change your environment and change it to go into your strengths and your values, how much you'll excel. So just some key takeaways or nuggets here for you. That's a gold nugget if you can't tell. So key takeaway number 1, everyone has leadership potential. And to me, this is a mindset. Number 2, leadership potential is realized in environments that nurture and encourage individuality. In my years as an athlete, when I was solely in environments where the coach felt it was just about the team and all about the team and all the training and everything, the design of the training was just for the team, I can tell you it wasn't enough for me. And I realized that when I found opportunities for that extra individual development, learning, growth, expression of myself, that's when I really thrived. A leadership mindset can be established and nurtured, and in brackets here, designed. Essentially, that's what you're doing when you're involved with young people. You are designing their mindset around their own leadership. It happens at a young age, a very young age. And as kids, we are paying attention to everything. Every word that you speak of us, every environment that you put us in, every sort of relationship that we have and that's nurtured around us or not. And the fourth one here, so sport, and again, this is from my many years of being around sport now in many different capacities. So as an environment and by its design, it has the potential to make or break a person's leadership potential. So when we put our opinions, our attitudes, we create a framework around an individual because it's our opinion of them, it does have the potential to break that person, to break their potential. When you say to a young person that they aren't a leader, only the captains are the leaders, for example, or the co-captains, it is blatantly false. You are creating a narrative that they will start to believe, that then translates into them as adults, young adults, and going into later stages of sort of standing back, not taking accountability, not stepping up, not being a team player. I mean, these are the kinds of sort of outward behaviors that transpire as a result of some of those characterizations. So I really want everyone who is in sport to really be thinking about the environment that you're creating. And the last takeaway here for everyone is that the most important person you'll ever lead is yourself. When I got myself sorted as a leader, when I was off track, I saw my world changed. My life changed, my personal life changed, my professional life changed, you name it. And the changes that I made was I didn't work 80 hours a week anymore. I didn't dedicate my entire self to these CEO titles and everything that I had because I had lost virtually everything else around myself. I didn't have time for friends. My family was just so fed up of hearing about work that, they didn't even recognize me anymore. And so honestly, the wake up call for me about 4 years ago was that, like, lead yourself first. That will position you to lead others really well and from a really healthy minded place. And finally, I have seen this, I've even thought this myself for many years, and I've seen this of so many individuals that I've mentored or coached along the way, is that they are looking for great leadership outside of themselves. And I want to leave you all with this notion and inspire you to become the greatest leader that you've ever known. Be everything as a leader from the earliest age forward that you've wanted to have in someone else who you have been led by. Thank you.
Well, I know I feel inspired after that talk, Eva. Thank you so much. We've had a couple questions come in, so we'll jump right into those if you're good with that.
Sure.
All right. The first one is, you have climbed to the highest levels of sports leadership. What advice would you give to young women who want to follow this path?
My advice is this: think carefully about what it is about sport that you want to pursue and why. There is an ability for us to be connected to sport in so many ways. And I think, the greatest gift you can give yourself is just get to know yourself really, really well. What do you value? What is it that you want to achieve? What's the legacy that you want to leave behind? And that really should be the essence of what drives you to pursue a career in sport or to keep sport in your life in other ways, volunteering, mentoring. There's lots of ways to do it. And so I just would really encourage anyone who's thinking about it to think, what is it about sport? Of course, we all love it, but is it going to make you happy? Is it going to give you the life that you truly want?
Fantastic. Thank you. We have another question queued up for you. With respect to leadership and coaching and some earlier discussions on transformational leadership, what do you see as key leadership habits in working with young athletes?
I think I touched on it a bit in the presentation. I mean, that aspect of individuality, I think as a coach or as a leader, you're responsible to understand that person that you are persuading and influencing and coaching and giving direction to. It's your responsibility to really understand who they are, what they care about, what makes them tick. And that's where that potential comes from. So in terms of sort of transformational leadership or transformational coaching, you are there in service of that human being, and yes, if you're in team sport like we are in soccer, there's many of them, but you are in service to each of them. And it's funny, but I remember every single coach I've ever had. I don't remember every teacher I've had, but I remember every single coach. I remember the words that they used to describe me, good, bad, ugly. I remember the opportunities they created for me, the challenges and the barriers that they put up in front of me. Like, I remember all of it. So being transformational is about understanding that person, what they care about in the youngest of years, and how you're going to help them be that step closer to their dreams and their potential.
Yeah, you talked about it in your presentation, and again, they're individuals you're dealing with, right? And it's not that cookie cutter approach. It's how do you find what resonates with each of them. I love that message. We have another question for you here. I think we have 2 more queued up for sure. What skill sets or mentalities did you take from playing and coaching that allowed you to be successful in leadership and business?
Relationships. I think for any of us that have played, especially team sports, you can't get things done if people aren't willing to go there with you, aren't willing to battle with you, aren't willing to compete with you, aren't willing to win and lose with you. And I think, the greatest moments I've had working in sports, so off the field, have been those moments where we crossed a finish line together. We got to a destination together. So relationships and communication, you can't beat those, and that's where sport is so wonderful, because it gives you the opportunity to really, really work on your communication, giving direction, giving feedback, communicating in tough times and great times. All of it counts in terms of giving you a moment to develop yourself.
Fantastic, thank you. We have a 4th question for you, and it starts with congratulations on your new role as ED at Alpine, Ontario. How do you feel you will bring your leadership mindset to your new organization? What kind of culture do you want to build?
Yeah, the biggest thing where I'm at today in my career is that people should enjoy work. So when I hear about these environments that people are struggling, they're tired, they're defeated. The whole reason I got into sport is because sport is fun. Sport creates these incredible memories and incredible experiences with other people. And so I think there's a little bit of that, or maybe a lot, that's been lost in the journey of sport, the win at all cost versus, achieving together and enjoying the moments, like enjoying the successes, enjoying the relationship building. So that's what I want to bring to Alpine. It's an incredibly established sport. I think as a winter sport, we know this, but I mean, I'm going to be completely new, just like I was at Equestrian and I was at Rugby and I was at Taekwondo. But this community is looking for excitement, enthusiasm, successes, all of these fun things about sport. And I can't wait to help them find that for themselves and just kind of facilitate it for them.
That's awesome. Can I build on that question a little bit? Because
Sure.
You are talking about bridging over all of these different sports. Mm-hmm. So definitely you've got your credence as an athlete and you've got business chutzpah behind you as well. But how do you go to each of those different organizations and really get them to run with you and build that trust? And I love the idea of fun, but I thought maybe if there's anything else you could share, because I think it's going into new teams even, we have to apply things like that.
Yes, this is a great question. I mean, it's honestly, I spent a lot of time both at Taekwondo and Equestrian listening and really trying to figure out who's who, what they care about, what their angle is, what is their role in the sport, and not official role. Like, again, this is where the title doesn't matter, but like, how do they play a leadership role in that community? And so and I'm talking 6-8 months of listening, having conversations with people where I'm asking them questions about who they are and what they care about and what they've been unhappy about and what they'd love to see happen or changed. And that helped me to build relationships really quickly. It helped me to build trust, and it helped me to get a good sense of where I needed to take the organization and why. And so from then it was about communicating super clearly, this is where we need to go because I've heard all of you, not this is where Eva would like it to go. Because ultimately, the success for Equestrian is for that community. I don't ride horses. I wanted the best for them and want them to just continue on that path of being great. So yeah, it came down to that. What did they want? My job then is to translate that into a strategy of how we get there, and then to make sure that I have the right people in the right roles, focused on the right things that can help us get there, and really empower the community to lead themselves to where they want to go.
So on behalf of Scottish United and all of us who have joined in today, I really want to thank you for sharing your insights and thoughts and helping us on the path to being great. It's really been a wonderful time spent with you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you.